Why did the USS Kittiwake need diving bells, gigantic floating pontoons, compressed gases, and several hyperbaric chambers for her secret missions? Let's find out in today's episode on the DiveSAGA channel. Today I find myself on the island of Grand Cayman in the Cayman Islands. I am here because I have a bone to pick, some unfinished business, if you will, with a famous shipwreck. If you browse our extensive library of diving videos here on the DiveSAGA channel, you can find an episode about Devil's Grotto and one about the Great Wall. But there is an infamous Grand Cayman dive site that is sorely missing. Until now. Because I've teamed up with the lovely people of DiveTech, who were kind enough to dedicate a boat charter just for us to the wreck of the USS Kittiwake. So big thank you to the owner and the crew of DiveTech Grand Cayman for making this happen. I'm diving my open circuit twin set today. A little bit overkill perhaps for a wreck that lies at maximum 20 meters 70 feet. We may even need to go slightly into deco to get the job done in one long dive, because this is more than just your average shipwreck. One of the things that makes the USS Kittiwake so special is not just the fact that it's a shipwreck, it's what it used to do. It was part of a highly elite fleet that was involved in the rescuing of stranded submariners. That means that it has all kinds of specialized high-tech Cold War era equipment on board, such as its diving bell and decompression chambers, and I can't wait to check that out. The USS Kittiwake led a service life of secret missions, following US submarines for support around the globe. Because the locations of these submarines needed to remain a secret, the Kittiwake too needed to move as unnoticed as possible. Moreover, she was outfitted with all the equipment needed to spring into action should a submarine run aground. So we hit the road, enjoying the beautiful views of Grand Cayman while we are headed in the direction of the world-famous 7 Mile Beach, an iconic crescent-shaped stretch of powdery white sand and turquoise waters on the western coast of Grand Cayman. Here, the Out of My Way, DiveTech's custom dive boat is waiting to take us just a few hundred meters out to the wreck of the USS Kittiwake.
Hello.
And after several failed attempts with bad weather, today is just the perfect day for it.
Permission to
come aboard.
Shoes? No shoes?
You can
Rather no shoes.
Shoes off and equipment on board. It's not every day that we get a private charter to a world-class wreck dive site in pristine conditions, so I'm going to enjoy this day to the fullest. On top of that, I'm diving with my great friend and colleague Stephen Aynsley, who lives on Grand Cayman and knows the wreck of the USS Kittiwake really well. By the way, in case you're noticing that a lot of the dive shop, the boat and all of the equipment has a pink coat of paint on it, you would be right. It just so happens that this is the dive shop owner Joe's favorite color. After a short boat ride, we arrive at the final resting place of the USS Kittiwake, immediately visible from the surface. The visibility is so clear today that you can see her laying on her side, right next to our boat in perfect condition. This is going to be good. But first, I'd like some information from the expert.
The Kittiwake, old Navy submarine salvage vessel. So back in the day, all submarines were assigned a boat like the Kittiwake that was there to assist them if they ever found themselves in distress. So the way this worked is you see there's one orange marker on each side. There were originally 2 on each side for a total of 4, and those basically acted like big surface markers or flotation devices. And then the Kittiwake was covered in thousands and thousands of feet of rope and chain up in spools up here in the back and just draped all over the decks. So if a submarine was stuck in midwater and it could not make its way to the surface, it sends out its hailing and distress signal to the Kittiwake. The Kittiwake locates it. It attached chain and rope from the bottom of one of these around to the other one, sort of creating a cradle. Then puts that chain and rope in the front of the submarine and the back of the submarine, like my drawing here, and supports it all the way up to the surface with these big flotation devices so the submarine is not able to sink any farther.
Time to get ready. Twin set and dry suit may be a little overkill for this depth and temperature, but it's what I have and it will do the job. But it's best not to dwell on the surface for too long in this tropical Caribbean weather. Dive guide Stephen does a quick visual check to make sure that we are directly on top of the wreck. And then we descend. There she is, the USS Kittiwake, operated by the US Navy from 1946 to 1994, supporting submarine operations, diving missions and recovering personnel. You can even still make out her name on the stern, measuring 76 meters or 251 feet in length and featuring 5 expansive decks for us to explore. I'm eager to get inside, but with so much to see on the outside of the wreck too, we're first going for a swim along the length of the wreck. And before long, I immediately notice her diving bell, still upright on the stern. The USS Kittiwake's diving bell was one of the most important tools in her entire mission, because it was essentially the lifeboat system for trapped submariners. In simple terms, it was used to rescue people from disabled submarines underwater, without them having to fully decompress underwater. The crew would be loaded into the diving bell, hoisted on board, and then immediately rushed to one of the several onboard hyperbaric chambers. Because she lies at such recreational depths, I had always imagined the USS Kittiwake to be rather small. But here I realize that this is going to be a long dive, with lots to see. Even just swimming alongside it takes a considerable amount of time. It's cool though, because although she was originally sunk upright, subsequent tropical storms have caused the wreck to tilt onto its side over the years. So while it may look like we're swimming underneath her, we're actually just diving along the portside deck. A great opportunity to already evaluate potential entrances and exits for later penetration. Now that we finally have our bearings, it's time to go inside. But I do need a moment to take it all in. The USS Kittiwake is an absolutely gorgeous wreck. And I think I might like the view here from the bow even more than from the stern. If you ask me, I think the fact that she's tilted on her side makes it even more dramatic. Stephen confirms that it's time to explore the inside. It's worth knowing that the USS Kittiwake was purposely sunk. Before doing so, she was fully stripped, and holes were cut in her hull to ensure exit options from nearly every room. That is also why a guideline, which is typically essential on complex wreck penetration dives, is not necessary here. The fact that the wreck is under a 45-degree angle makes diving inside rather disorienting. After nearly half a century in service protecting the lives of so many submariners out on missions, the USS Kittiwake now looks like a ghost ship herself. Because, as always, time changes everything. This is the Kittiwake's drive shaft, connected from the engines to the propeller, and again with the whole corridor under a disorienting angle. As mentioned earlier, many holes were cut in the Kittiwake's hull. But I will say that light entering the wreck from all these different angles has a particularly dramatic effect. We make our way further through the mostly gutted engine room. This must have been the chimney. Now we are about to enter one particularly interesting space. By now you understand that the USS Kittiwake was essentially a floating underwater rescue and diving platform, so she had to function like a mobile life support system for deep-sea operations. That's why she carried high-pressure compressed air banks for supporting divers and the air bell system. She also had oxygen supply systems for mixing dive gases and decompression chamber operations. You will notice the cylinders all have holes made in them for sinking. If you're a scuba diver, you must certainly get a kick out of this. Time to venture outside again for a little breather. We are now on the starboard side of the USS Kittiwake, swimming towards the stern again. Here we can get a very good look at the auxiliary buoyancy units used during salvage and submarine rescue operations. These are the floating devices that Jo referenced in her briefing, used to lift up stranded submarines. I think Stephen is hungry because he wants to check out the mess hall. Generally, the USS Kittiwake operated with around 100 crew members on board, but during the most intense missions and rescue operations, this could go as high as 150. And all of those men and women needed to be fed. Again, the Kittiwake has been stripped before sinking, but all the fixed table and chair supports are still here. We can also clearly see the food counter where hungry sailors would get their much-needed breakfast, lunch and dinner. Running the USS Kittiwake was like running a small city on the water, all under the cover of secrecy. Although the Kittiwake's location was never top secret, she was always quietly waiting in the background of the Cold War, ready for potential accidents with submarines who were meant to move undetected. And then there is one last area that I really want to explore. This Divers Alert Network plaque above the door may already reveal a clue. The Hyperbaric Chambers. As mentioned before, stranded submarine crew could be rescued via the diving bell, but after surfacing, treatments would still be needed and time would be of the essence to prevent the worst of decompression sickness. I'm a chamber operator myself, and these chambers are very similar to the unit I work with. A little claustrophobic, but they get the job done. After several years of trying, the USS Kittiwake has finally blown my mind. She spent decades shadowing submarines during their most vulnerable moments. Her operational area stretched from the tropics to near Arctic waters, and she served during virtually the entire Cold War. She helped pioneer the Navy's understanding of deep diving and underwater rescue, and her final mission may be her most successful yet. After nearly 5 decades of service, the USS Kittiwake was transferred to the government of the Cayman Islands and intentionally sunk in 2011 as an artificial reef. Today, she is one of the world's most famous wreck dives, and it's easy to see why this wreck is loved by so many.
So cool.
Yeah.
Mission definitely accomplished. so good. Guys, after all these years, we can finally add the USS Kittiwake to the DiveSAGA library. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to DiveTech for getting us here and to Stephen Aynsley for guiding us. And thank you to you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the DiveSAGA channel. I'll see you next time.